Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started with our Commissioner Status Update meeting. Today's date is March 3, 2026. The time is 10 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Eberline and Matari. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda?
None.
Hearing none. Public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Hearing none. We'll go into our first business item. Number 1, opioid settlement funds, a discussion, and I have Sarah Masters and Julina Hildreth.
Yeah, so it's just a discussion for the board. As you know, we received the opioid settlement funds and have amassed quite a large dollar amount. We spend it on the jail for a couple different items, but we were kind of looking at other options. One of the options we came up with is for drug court drug testing. Drug court is one of the only specialty courts that isn't fully reimbursed by the state, so it would allow us to reimburse ourselves for that drug testing. The budget for that last year was $52,000. Latah County does something very similar. They reimburse themselves. So just wanted to bring it before the board to see if that was something you were interested in. And Jolene is here to answer any questions as far as like the management of that reimbursement.
Thoughts? I think it's a good idea because it shifts money from, we have this money sitting in the bank basically that we have not been able to spend. We're using taxpayer dollars for these drug tests.
Yeah.
So we could use this money. What, 52,000? So about 50.
It's not a huge amount, but it's something, and puts that money back in general funds for us.
If we were to agree to this, would this have to get on a business meeting, or how would we go about doing that?
I would think so, because I think officially the board it has to be an action item.
I think we would do a resolution on the business meeting or like a MOU.
Okay. You good with that?
It's fine.
All right, you have direction.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, item 2, IT critical infrastructure discussion item, and Grant Kinsey.
Thank you, Commissioners. I got a presentation up here, but it will be brief. It's only like 4 slides. So basically what's going on here is if you recall, we were here about 3 months ago explaining to you this problem we have with one of our main pieces of infrastructure. It's the hypervisor, the thing that marries the software and the hardware together. And the company that bought the system that we use has gone crazy with their costs. And I'll highlight those in a second here. But as a result, we let you know we're going to look into what are our options here. How do we depart from that company if it makes sense and save the county money in the long run. And so just a real quick recap on that. So we'll talk about the hypervisor price increasing. We'll talk about another market-wide problem that we've ran into in the middle of this, which is hardware shortage due to the AI explosion. And then we'll give you the overall picture of what it looks like for Kootenai County right now if we were to just do everything that technically needs to be done. And then we're going to give you a parsed down recommendation that IT feels would be more prudent given the market situation right now. And stop me anytime that you have a question, please. But this hypervisor, so again, this is the thing. We used to buy a server and we'd put the on-base system on that. Then we'd buy a server and we'd put the tax and assessment system on. We don't do that anymore. We only run 6 servers to run this entire admin side of the county, and then we've got 200 virtual servers floating around on top of those. The reason that's all possible is this thing called a hypervisor. So it marries the hardware to these virtual servers that we use. And we've been using a product made by VMware for the last 7 to 10 years. And for a long time, we were paying a very comfortable price of around $14,000 a year to operate this system. Well, then that was as of about 2 years ago. Then a year ago, they over doubled our pricing. And we explained to the board, this hurts, but we were actually getting a really good deal at $14,000. We still feel 34 is worth paying this. Well, then this year they came back to us and said, you're basically going to need to go to $100,000 a year every year. And we're like, whoa, this is getting a little crazy here. So what they did is they developed this plan of action where they started us out at $60,000. We paid that because we had to. We needed to keep running. And then there's a steady increase onto year 5 that goes beyond $100,000 up to $125,000. This is a 5-year contract that we had legal review that is completely, we're able to get out of any time. Not even the non-appropriation clause is needed. It's just flat. If you don't want to do this anymore, you just stop. So we elected to do the 5-year contract because that allowed us to pay $60,000 instead of $100,000 this year. And then we said, okay, well, we're going to put the tools down and we're going to figure out what is the option. How do we get away from this thing so that this doesn't end up being this cost liability down the road? What other options are there? Does it make sense to move away from this? Overall, what we've determined is this company Broadcom, they're the ones who bought VMware and started doing all this. They're not a trustworthy company to work with anymore. They want to phase out the small enterprises like us. They do not want to deal with anybody except for the Amazons and the Microsofts and the AT&Ts of the world. So for us to try to keep pounding that square peg in the round hole financially, we're always going to be on the losing end of it. So what we're looking at is a shift to another product called Microsoft Hyper-V. It's an inferior product, but not terrible. I only say that because VMware is cream of the crop. It's the best we'll ever find, the best we'll ever use. But given the pricing, I don't feel it's appropriate for our ease of use in IT to continue using that product when we can get Hyper-V for what you'll see is effectively free. And I'll get into that in a moment. But is there any questions up to this point?
Thank you. Questions? No
Okay.
questions.
We'll hit on this IT thing or this AI thing real quick. So as we started working all this and deciding what kind of hardware do we need to bring in to make this shift happen and everything, we were confronted at the beginning of the year with this explosion of what's going on in the IT world right now. So basically, every device, a computer, a server, you name it, it has some part of it that's using what we call RAM or memory. And these AI data centers are consuming this at an exponential rate. No one can keep up with it, but it's a different kind of RAM. And what all of the three major builders in the world have done is retooled their entire factories to build nothing but this high-end memory for the AI data centers because they're making a ton of money off it, which has created this void and shortage in the market. So no one can get their hands on commodity memory anymore, so the prices have gone through the roof. Because we were originally going to propose to you guys that we should get new servers as a result of this. It would make sense at this time, but we're talking over double the price that we should be paying for that type of hardware. So you'll see on the next slide, we're going to give you a menu, again, of everything that would probably be appropriate right now. Don't let it sticker shock you too much, because there is a slide after that that's considerably less in value that we're going to give as an option. But basically, this has caused the surge in the hardware pricing, even down to the PCs. We're having trouble getting new computers for our users this year just because everything's been bought out. There's just nothing on the market right now. This is expected to recede in about 2 years. So we're willing to say, okay, well, if we kind of hold on some things and don't do some things right now and we weather the storm, it's worth it, because if this does recede, then it's like not buying a house at the 2008 bubble, right? We wait a few years and market becomes a little bit more stable. So I'll talk about that a little bit too. Basically what we're talking about not doing is like our servers and our networking. The servers, half of them are still fully under support. We can pay the company to get support on them. If anything bad happens, that'll get repaired. The other half of them are not in that state. What I would propose is that I can buy used servers of the type we have, stockpile a couple of them, so that if we have problems, we already have the parts here to get them going. But I would recommend that over the pricing you're going to see on the next slide, as far as buying all new servers right now when we're at the absolute peak of market. So, but as far as the AI explosion, does that kind of make sense? It's just something that's happening and creating a market issue that is abnormal at this time, but we hope it to stabilize within a couple of years. So this is what we're looking at. If we go through these line by line, what makes sense in the data center, especially when you're doing a hypervisor conversion, is to get things up to speed. And this isn't just because of the hypervisor. These pieces of hardware are things that you will find on our 5-year plan, and they're about at the right time to change anyway. We just pulled one or two of the line items back to get them all in alignment because of this project. But basically the storage, that's where, self-explanatory, that's where all the data sits. That's the data when it's at rest, not doing anything, it sits on the storage. Then when we're using our programs like our on-base and our tax and assessment and our community development, those are running on the servers. So the servers are what take that data and bring it into an application and make it usable for people. The networking is what drives all that. That's how the PC and everything talks to the servers and does it in a fast, efficient manner. Licensing is just the stuff that comes with this to make it all compliant with the companies we're buying it from. I'll come back to hypervisor. Engineering, again, kind of self-explanatory. There is some professional services needed when you're doing all of this stuff to get it coordinated and make it all work. Now that hypervisor, so again, we're coming from VMware. That's what started this whole problem. VMware is going to be is a line item of about $100,000 a year. If we go with this Microsoft Hyper-V, the reason it's free is because products that we already own, so we're paying, as you know, quite a bit of money for the Microsoft Office 365 product. We already own our server licensing. Well, Hyper-V is bundled inside that server licensing. So they allow you to use that once you own that licensing. So basically we own it already. Why not use it? It's definitely had a lack of polish up until about a year ago. But with this market havoc that Broadcom's created with VMware, Microsoft has really hit the books and made this product much, much better to where lots of people are jumping ship and going over to it and using it. It was something where everyone kind of knew, yeah, we have that, but that's really not going to meet our needs because it can't do this, it can't do that. They've added so many features in the last year to make this a usable product. It's to the point where we're willing to, whatever it's lacking compared to VMware, we are willing to weather that in lieu of the cost that it's going to cost us to operate, again, that system that they basically don't even want us using anymore. They're trying to price us out of it. So add all that up, real close to $1 million. But again, this is a projection of if we just did everything today. Now we're going to take into consideration that AI market explosion and everything that's going on. We're going to knock, our suggestion from IT is that we knock those servers right off the top. We just cannot imagine buying 8 to 10 servers in this day, in any day and age for $500,000. That number should be closer to $200,000 to $300,000. So we just can't professionally ask you to, even though the money's there, we've checked for it in IT fund balance, but we just can't in good conscience make that recommendation. Then the network, so again, that's the thing that makes everything talk fast. Well, if we don't do the servers, which are going to run at a higher, newer speed, there's no point in increasing the network speed either because we won't get any benefit out of it. So we can take the network out of the picture as well. So that leaves the storage, which is very crucial in a project like this because you're taking our entire server plant, everything we do, and moving it. So if you're doing that on the same storage, you're basically taking a piece away, adding a piece in, putting it back on top. It's a very tedious, very complicated process. If you have other storage, you can kind of just move it. And it's a very elegant, much more efficient process. And the fact that the storage is due for replacement, it makes sense to look at doing that right now. The licensing, again, just comes with these products. That's a necessary cost. And then engineering goes down because we wouldn't be doing networking or server compute. So that line item is reduced as well. So now we're at a price point of $341,000 as opposed to $1 million. That's about the best we could come up with. And again, talked with the finance director. There is money available. Plenty. There's about just short of $1.5 million in IT fund balance available for these type of projects. If the board saw fit to pursue this recommendation, IT's recommendation would be that we pull it out of IT fund balance now and move forward with it, so that as opposed to budgeting for it in fiscal year 27. The only reason for that is If we go another fiscal year, we're just paying VMware it'll be $74,000 next year. If we do it now and we can get it done, we don't have to pay VMware those funds. And I believe, due to past trends, if we budgeted for it in '27, the board would likely take those funds out of IT fund balance anyway. So, the decision is yours, of course, between now and later, if you even choose to pursue this. But that's kind of the state of where we're at with this infrastructure, and wanted to bring it to your attention. I do have have this scheduled for the business meeting this afternoon too, if you were wanting to say, yes, do this, or proceed or anything. But that can also be pulled from there if you guys want time to think about it. That's it.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? I do. Servers,
Yes, sir.
$500,000 in servers. Can you explain that a little bit? Does that include these virtual servers that you're talking about? This
That's
is
just
just
the
hardware.
Physical servers, yes.
So six to eight servers now goes for eight servers goes for $500,000.
Right now it does.
What?
About 80% to 90% of the cost of each of those servers is the RAM inside it. That percentage used to be down around 40% of the cost of the server. It's all because of the RAM right now. No one can get their hands on RAM.
And the storage, 269,000. That seems like a lot too.
So that's for 2 storage arrays. That's one for here at the admin. That's one at the jail as well. And then what those do is they cross-populate their data so that we can do disaster recovery scenarios if we were to lose one side or the other.
So you're doing a RAID array plus you're doing a backup on the other server.
Correct. Yeah.
And do you have concerns about one of the servers just having a catastrophic failure?
I do, and well, the ones at the jail are under support. They're a little bit newer. So those ones, I mean, they could still have a catastrophic failure, but the question is, where would the funding come from if the failure happened? And that side, it would be from the manufacturer, Dell. We would go to them, open an RMA case, get the server replaced. On the admin side, that's not the case. It would be, that's why I want to buy a few of these, and they're older, so I can get them dirt cheap. I can get them without RAM and without processors in them, because the thing that's going to fail if they fail is the system board in it. So I could transfer, we have a ton of RAM in these existing servers, and it breaks my heart to think that we're even going to replace them in this market, and that's why we're thinking about going this route. Let me add one more thing though. As we build these physical servers up, both at the jail and at the admin side, we do what's called an N+1, N+2 redundancy. Think of it as RAID for servers. So what that means is we have 6 servers running down here at the admin right now. If one of them failed, all of our resources would fail to the other 5. The most we might notice is a reboot of a system like OnBase, and people email, hey, what's wrong with OnBase? We're like, wait 5 minutes, you'll be just fine. So we're not in a situation where we're running on right on the tightrope. We're in a situation where we could lose at least up to 2 servers on the admin side before we'd ever be in trouble. Actually, same on the jail side.
You're talking about 2 physical servers.
Yes. Yes.
And then
So
how
those
many?
200 virtual machines that roam around between all 6 servers, they're able to dance in between them.
Okay.
So if we lost a physical server, we would not be in dire straits. We would have the time to get that other one off the shelf, put the guts in it, get it up and running, redistribute processes with no ill effects to production.
And the new servers will get you, what's the big advantage? More processing power?
More processing power, just new from the fact that just like any technology, after a certain amount of time, they're going to start dropping and dying. It's a little bit of a risk to say that we're going to run these servers another 2 years, but I emphasize a little bit. I think they can make it. Generally, you replace your servers more proactively. This would be more of a getting close to the reactive, going another 2 years on these servers. But it's still something that given that pricing, I just can't recommend.
How old are the servers now?
The ones that are out of support on this end are 6 years old.
Okay. And how much storage are you looking at? I mean, $250,000, that's a lot of storage.
It is. It'd be, when you go through all the algorithms, obviously there's deduplication, there's compression, there's all these things. But basically we're looking to have 200 terabytes on each side to be usable. That gives us the space so that if we lost the jail data center, we could have everything replicated here and bring stuff up and running and still have basically continuity of government without having to pick and choose what's important, what's not.
And how much extra space would you have after that?
We would probably have about, I think the projection was that we needed 150 terabytes. So that extra 50, this is a 5-year plan. I should have noted that. This comes with all 5 years of support of those data arrays up front. That's also included in there. So that leaves us room for growth over the next 5 years as well.
And you have a pretty good sense that we won't use up all that capacity within then?
Yeah.
I mean, given the rate of growth?
Previous data trends show that we would be fine with that. And then the worst case scenario is, and that's why this is advantageous, you don't want to overgrow it too much, because again, we're looking at DR, something that hasn't happened.
DR is?
Disaster recovery, sorry.
Okay.
So if we lost one data center and we flooded everything over to the other side, now we're at 150 terabytes. Now we still have 50 to grow with. We can over provision that a little bit as we need to if we were confronted with, do we want the failover or do we want to grow over the next 5 years? There's a little bit of slush to play with in there. So it all gets sized with those thoughts in mind.
I understand the failover side, but it's a lot more expensive to have that as opposed to doing like an incremental backup. And then if you had a failover, you could at least, you'd have to get new servers, I'd take it, or you could restore on the existing.
Which we do. We do have a backup, exactly like you just explained. The difference is weeks to get it up and running versus instantly having it available to run.
Yeah. What do you think the likelihood of that happening is?
Fairly low.
Okay.
But it's one of those things that once it happens, then you're dealing with the court of public opinion.
I get it. I get it. It's just that everything is in essence a risk management proposition.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
you can give me all the worst case scenarios on the planet, and I accept the fact that you can lose it all, right? But what is the likelihood of it happening, and how much money do you want to spend to account for that?
Right. We did another sizing exercise on the storage that brought it down to 150 terabytes on either side. The difference was $10,000.
Yeah.
So we elected to bring this to you because we got an extra 50 terabytes on each side for $10,000 more. The next increment down was close to like 100 terabytes, and then we were really kind of teetering on, do we have enough space for growth even, let alone failover?
So what's driving this right now? Is it because VMware is going up so much, or is it because we need to replace our hardware?
It's both. VMware went up, which was the catalyst, and so it made us focus a little bit sooner. That storage, I wouldn't have proposed it until the FY27. It would have been an ask in FY27. But now that we're trying to get this going, like I said, usually projects like that you elect to take out of the fund balance anyway. And so I figured I better get it to you now and give you the option to save what you'd be paying VMware another year, $75,000 or something. And the other thing is this storage quote is only good until March 24th, and then they've guaranteed a 25% increase, again, because of the AI explosion. So who knows what this thing would be in October? I can't give you that number.
You can't?
No.
Okay, just checking. Look, no one has a crystal ball. No one expects these things, and the technology world has constantly had this. We had this with video cards, with the crypto, right? It was just, making the cost of those things go through the roof, and then all of a sudden they came down.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Have fun.
Well, I don't think I'm ready to make a decision this afternoon on it.
Fair enough.
It's pretty significant. We have a couple weeks, right?
Absolutely. It wasn't an intent to pressure. It was just in case you wanted to move on that. I figured I'd get it on the agenda. We can certainly reschedule for 2 weeks from today, if that's what I'm hearing, and we'll have all the paperwork in order and things ready to go for you. But appreciate you taking the time this
Does that
morning.
work?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think, let me just check real quick, just so I'm not misspeaking on that. So 2 weeks would be the 17th. We would have 1 week from the 17th to execute the PO, so I think that's plenty of time still
Okay.
to do that.
Well, I appreciate your foresight and thinking there. You know, and that's what you should be doing. It's kind of a big expenditure. And
It
then,
is.
And then, as far as the used servers go, what are you looking at for those?
As far as the,
Being able, you said you could purchase some.
you won't believe this.
They're probably a
literally
dime a
like
dozen.
$300 to $500 a piece.
Yeah.
So I'd just grab a couple, 2 or 3 of those and put them on the shelf. And
Yeah. What's kind of funny is that I have a similar situation where a server I've used for over 20 years, and it's cheaper to get a used one
yeah,
and just run that until it fails.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's especially in this market. This is absolutely insane. I feel bad. Even these costs, they're inflated, but we've been working on this for about 3 months, trying to figure out what the menu is for you here. So.
And what about on the storage side? Would a used server not work just as a backup? I mean, because
The problem with storage is it's all finite material, whether you're a spinning hard drive or your solid state hard disk, all of those have a finite lifetime. That's what you're paying for with storage. You're not paying for the case that the hard drives go into. You're paying for all those drives. So buying used ones is asking for failure almost immediately.
well, so I guess are the drives? You can buy new drives. I get that part. So I mean, are you rotating drives right now? Are you putting new ones in on a regular schedule?
Oh, no, because there's double parity redundancy in there, so we can lose a drive anytime and not even blink. So we have support on the existing one, like we're proposing for this one. So as one dies, they get overnighted to us, we pop it in. So we don't replace them till they die.
Okay. And right now you have 150 terabytes.
I've got 130 here, and I've got 90 out at the jail. But the only thing we're replicating right now are absolutely critical, just barely to make the county run, allow you to log into a computer kind of thing. We're not replicating everything, all the softwares that would keep the 750 people who are doing their jobs right now. If we had a catastrophic failure, some of those people would not be able to work right now. Where if we went this route, and we can retool this if you're not feeling this. We can go back to kind of the structure we're at now where it's critical and absolute critical only. But this is trying to gain us a little bit more from where we've been and say, okay, well, maybe we have a day or two where people aren't productive, but then really quickly we're back up and running and we can put people in this meeting room and keep them working or something like that. But right now, if that were to happen, we just physically wouldn't have the
All right.
space.
So this is an upgrade of our system too.
Yes, sir.
This isn't replacing. This is actually upgrading all around on our storage.
Yeah.
But the servers though would remain the same. The $500,000 that you have there is basically to replace what we have with newer if we decided to go that route.
Yep. It's just a worn out truck and we need a new one.
But what would the cost be if it was just a straight up replacement
Of the servers,
of the storage?
we didn't do it. You generally never replace storage for exactly what you have because you always try to anticipate growth. Because back when we bought the storage we're on now, we had a good 50% worth of growth, and we've used a lot of that over time. So
Where are we at?
that's where I was trying to tell you the two scenarios we looked at were, well, what if we do just enough to kind of get by with growth? There was only $10,000 worth of difference in between the two solutions, basically because they were willing to discount this one more than the other one.
So what's our capacity right now with our existing infrastructure? I mean, not where we are to capacity, 80%, 90%? We're going to run out pretty
hovering
soon?
around the 80% right now, yeah.
Okay, and how long will it take until we fill up with our existing infrastructure?
I'd say 2 years. We might be able to go.
But what you're proposing here is a massive upgrade in redundancy and storage. So we would fill that up pretty quickly.
Only if yeah.
I'm just trying to get to this here because
No, I understand what
I'm
you're
now
saying.
starting to understand a little more
Yeah.
about what you're asking.
Yeah. So if we took if we took everything and had it replicated, Out of the 200 terabytes that's on either side, we'd probably be sitting around 120, 130. That leaves us 70 terabytes on either side to grow. And we've seen steady growth, and we've also seen exponential growth. It depends on business flow. You know, a lot of things like when the body worn and in-vehicle cameras at the sheriff's department, data are just size explosion. And then you find departments on the other side consuming that, the prosecutor. They can't share that storage for legal reasons, so they've got to take a copy of it and from the sheriff's side and put it on the county side. So that explodes data a little bit. That's just one example. I guess my point is, like you said, we can't have a crystal ball, but we can make educated guesses based on trends. And with the linear growth we've seen, and then the few exponential things we've seen happen, I'm not at all worried. If we had 70 terabytes of growth on either side for the next 5 years, I think we'd be just fine, barring something that we just couldn't project.
With existing or with your
With the
proposed
new.
200 terabytes?
Yeah, with existing, I wouldn't want to take it too much more past 2 years.
Okay.
Plus, again, the arrays are coming out of support. So if we stayed with the existing, we'd have to go back to the companies and say we need to pay more money now to keep them under support. Because those storage is just not something you risk running without support on. If you lost a controller and the thing were down, you need that overnighted to you right away
I
as
get it.
drives die. So I could look into what that cost would be to keep them under support for the next 2 years. But if I had to wager a guess, I'd say it'd probably be somewhere around $40,000 to $50,000 per side for another 2 years of support on each of those. So
But
call it
that's,
100,000.
but that support is largely just going to be shipping a hard drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could just keep some extra hard drives on site, right?
Well, you can, but if something goes critically wrong with it, like the controller where you need the company's expertise, I suppose they'd probably let you pay time and materials, but generally that's why you pay the support, is so that you've got top level engineers at your beck and call so that.
I know how this works, and and it's worth looking into.
Okay.
You know, because again, I used to keep extra hard drives all the time because they fail all the time. And with a good RAID array, you can actually just pop the old one out, put the new one in, and it's up and running right then and there.
Yeah.
So it'd be worth looking into if we're going to make this kind of an investment. Not to take away from that, but okay. Well, I appreciate you bringing this before us.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next up, item 3, 911 concept design update. And we've got our Director of Building and Grounds, Jeff Fuller, and Lieutenant Jeff Howard.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you today. If you recall, a few months back, we engaged Longwell Trapp Architects to do some concept and cost analysis study on the potential for a 911 center. In your packet, I submitted some of the products from that, and today we're going to just go over that a little bit so you get an idea of what we're thinking with that. The initial idea is to place the new 911 call center out at the OEM building. Would basically mirror the OEM building and attach it to where the briefing room, kind of at the low side of the T of that OEM building. And it will have a dispatch center that will attach to the briefing room to give good access in between the emergency management briefing room and the dispatch center. One of the benefits of that is, like in the example of what happened in Canfield over the summer, in a big emergency like that, we can have a lot of collaboration between 911 and what's going on in the briefing center. That's one of the big draws to putting it out at that location. So you'll see a concept layout that LTA has put together. So you've got the big dispatch center. We have some room in there to play with size a little bit and number of stations, but it will allow us the opportunity for growth of dispatch stations to provide future needs for growth in the county. And then on the low side of the T is kind of upside down in this concept. That's where you'll have all your office and administrative staff. We talked about a couple different options, one being a 2-story building that will go up for kind of future expansion and growth. LTA actually recommended that maybe we consider going with the basement. And we do, after we've kind of reviewed that, we like that idea and that concept with that. One being that will be going over an existing drain field. So right now that whole OEM building is on a septic system. And so we would be building it over the septic system. It would be abandoning that. I checked with Panhandle Health. There's no issues in digging up that septic system and putting in a basement there. And so we would be over digging anyway. And so the idea then of putting that on a basement starts to make some financial sense to consider that. Then the lowest end of that T, we would have an area well to bring daylight into that basement and just kind of an area for staff to go and have a little spot to sit outside and bring in daylight to that basement. So that's kind of the overall concept of what we're looking at with that. A few other things to note. So going back to that drain field, so it would require us to connect to the City of Hayden's sewer system, which is along, is that Dakota right there? Ramsey, sorry. It's along Ramsey right there. And so the City of Hayden has initially said, yes, they think they would be willing to do a will serve on that for us. And so one of the challenges with that is this is county property. Ramsey is kind of the center line for City of Hayden property. And so it's essentially the City of Hayden that would be serving sewer for us. But we would like this probably to remain county property and not annex into the City of Coeur d'Alene was kind of, I think, the idea with that. And the initial preliminary idea is they would likely be willing to give us a will serve letter on that. That's one of the things we need to finally vet out. But we have an email that says they would strongly consider that, and it would probably likely be approved from the City of Hayden. And then there's a basement concept plan that you can see in that. Part of that will be so it'll only be kind of a half basement and then a crawl space. Under the crawl space will allow us access to run all the wiring and things that we need for the infrastructure of the 911 call center with kind of all the wiring and IT and technical side of that needs to go into that. So gives you the concept on that. The other thing that we gave you is the estimate of probable costs. So we're looking at, it's right around, like hard construction costs are just under 7 million. By the time you add all the soft costs into that, we're looking at around 8.2 million is kind of the estimated budget on that. One thing you notice is a fairly healthy line item under the F&E allowance of $500,000. Included in that is $400,000 in the actual 911 stations. They're a pretty structured station on what you need specifically designed for a 911 call center. We gave you a concept in the packet too of what that would look like with a quote from Bassett, which would be purchased through a GSA, a government services contract, where we can get the best reduced rate under pre-negotiated already included prices in that. And then that will leave us about $100,000 for purchasing the remainder of desks and conference tables and things like that. We would have a dispatch room, and then we would also have a training center. One of the training rooms that you see in there would have basically a training station, essentially, right? Is what
Four
you call it,
additional
so.
full-fledged consoles
Yeah.
that we would use to train on, but they could also be used for backup and overflow if an emergency occurred and we needed it.
Yep, correct. A couple other things that we need to consider in the overall budget is this would require a radio tower. You can see that in the concept design. We've got that noted along Ramsey there. The initial thought was that tower would be 120 or 130 feet tall?
130 feet.
130 feet. And we had the FAA, or Day Wireless submitted a proposal to the FAA to consider that in proximity to the airport, and they gave us tentative approval for that. But then some further study, we were able to bring that down 30 feet, 40 feet?
Another 40 feet.
Another 40 feet, so 90 feet tall on the tower for that. So there's good news there. So it seems like we have capacity to put the tower in there.
Is that in the quote?
No, the tower's not in the quote. So that's the one thing that's not in the quote. And then the other thing that is not in the quote is, well, let me finish on the tower, and then I'll tell you what else is not on that quote that we need to consider in there. So the tower is close proximity to come into the dispatch center so that we can kind of run the wires through that crawl space and do all the connectivity in there. The worst case scenario, if the FAA were to say, based on final engineering, no, you can't have a tower in there, we would likely leave the existing tower at the existing 911 center and connect fiber optically to that. So there's a couple options for the tower in there. But best case scenario would be we'd like to have the tower at that location for proximity to the dispatch center. They've done studies on aiming up at the repeaters off of Canfield, and it seems like we've got the angles and clear vision
Yeah,
and
there's
such that we need with
Clear
that.
line of sight to Canfield as well as signal point. So there's potential for even cutting out some other infrastructure that's currently there that we can no longer pay to have serviced and pay for those fiber optic lines and things like that. So we might be, if we have the tower up at the new center, we might be able to cut some additional costs down the road.
So the cost in the proposal from LTA Architects, so the one line item, as we mentioned, is the tower. We estimate that to be about $250,000. Could come down a little bit with the lower tower that we're doing, but that was kind of the budget that we were working with, was $250,000 for that tower. The other aspect to consider in this is actually the IT technology that it takes and requires to run a 911 call center, and that's, you know, fairly significant. The idea of that, and Lieutenant Howard can speak probably a little more directly to that, but we're looking at probably a $5 million cost over 5 years. Right now, we feel like we can probably do it for about $2 million upfront costs, and the 911 fees that we collect from cellular fees, the fee structure, could be used to pay for the majority of that, especially those upfront fees, and then that will build up over the years as we, and you can maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah,
That's probably more
and
technical.
in that $5 million, it includes our 911 call handling, our consoles, the radio consoles themselves, the radio site within the center, our long-term recording software, and a couple of other ancillary things. Most of those are up for refresh in the next 2 years. So we're looking at having to spend that money one way or another. By doing it all at the same time and getting it into a new center, we could actually get bundle pricing. And I should have those quotes by the end of the month from Motorola. They're working on it right now, but they've assured me that by bundling all of this and doing it up front, we're going to be able to cut a substantial amount of money out of the overall cost in the long run.
So that's the initial concept, kind of cost estimates. I know, I think you guys are waiting on some presentations from the auditors coming up over the next couple weeks to see where we're at with fund balance and what we have from FY26 cost savings, to see what we could be comfortable allocating towards a project like this. Should you give us directions, our next steps is we would like to run this as a CMGC style contract where we would put out an RFP simultaneously for one, an architect, and two, a general contractor, so that we can start to build the team. Like I said, this is fairly rough concept right now. We have a little bit of room to, you know, flex with what the basement will look like, how we would exactly line out the dispatch center. But I think this gives you a pretty good rendering of what that would potentially look like on that side.
So you talked about where the money would come from. Is that in any of these documents?
That is not. This is,
Okay.
you know, you
That should be
in.
included, okay? Because telling and showing are two different things. And you told us, but I honestly don't understand. I like to look at things so I can kind of assess where is this money coming from, how much. LTA Architects, is that the one that gave us the initial quote for the Justice Center? No, that was the one down in Boise, right?
The Justice Center, I am not sure. I wasn't here when we got the initial
Yeah.
quotes on Justice Center.
Yeah, the initial quote came in at 22 million.
No, LTA is not. LTA
Yeah.
is local out of Kootenai.
Okay.
That's Coy Trap.
All right,
LTA Architects.
that's right, okay. So how confident are you with that quote?
You know, to me, I think as I look at these square footing prices, that's where I'm seeing costs come in with some of the recent construction that we've done. So, you know, I think this gives us the flexibility to work within that budget.
You know, $425 a foot? That seems pretty high. And that's not finished. Well, that's finished, but not outfitted with,
Yeah, I think the one comment I would make to that is generally when you do like heavy infrastructure buildings for governments, you generally design those 20 to 30% greater capacity, so like, you know, larger block walls and things and such. So generally that's the standard for those structures.
okay. Well, I would like to see your proposal on where the money's going to come from. And this is a lot more than what I expected for it. I mean, I certainly recognize the need. You know, we're getting hit pretty hard with a lot of expenses. Have we done an analysis? Will this change overhead rates at all? You know, for this building compared to what we have? Will it increase the operating expense?
Well, it's more square footage, so I imagine the heating and things like that.
Yeah.
It might, but the building that we're currently trying to maintain is so old that we have HVAC systems run nonstop, trying to keep humidity levels at a decent rate. I mean, we're
I
paying,
get that, but even like with Casey North, I mean, I think they were spending, what, 12, 13,000 a month for some months because they were using electric heat.
well, and that's the other thing, is that we're building this building to be purpose-built, not retrofitting, trying to make something fit for it. We're trying to build a building that is
Yeah.
designed to structure what we're putting in.
Have we talked with other jurisdictions that offer dispatch and say, hey, look, we're looking at building, maybe we could consolidate, pool our resources?
I have had very soft, I haven't had any sort of real conversations, but my understanding from other jurisdictions in those discussions have been that they're not looking to consolidate.
Could you consider having more direct conversations with them just to see where their temperament is with that? Because
Under your direction, I don't have a problem.
does that seem reasonable, Commissioner Eberline?
Fine.
Yeah. I mean, if we
We
can.
may have to look at increasing our square footage of the actual center itself. Right now, it's at 3,000 square feet, which was designed to have a little bit of growth over time. But if we are wanting to have a serious conversation about consolidating, we would have to increase the size of that by probably 1,500 square feet.
Well, you have 9,000 on the upper floor.
Oh, I'm talking about the 3,000 square foot for the actual center itself, where the dispatchers will be housed.
Yeah.
We might want to increase that size if we're talking about wanting to have those conversations.
No, I get that. It's just, I guess the other 6,000 feet are either offices, a couple training rooms I saw. So we want to have some plans for expansion, you know, if we end up having more agents.
$200,000 more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the offices, I'm less worried about, more so having expansion for dispatchers.
You know, we built the office area, the admin wing, so to speak, out for growth. I can't foresee a lot of managerial growth in the future. The big thing is actual dispatchers and having room for them to operate where they're not talking over each other in the room.
Okay.
There's some space for additional offices in the basement as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we need to figure out where the money's going to come from. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you. All right, next up, item 4, Justice Center photo exhibit selections. I have Jonathan to give us that, but I don't believe Jonathan's here today.
No, I
Courtney?
apologize, he's not here, so you get me.
All right.
Good to see you, Commissioner Matari, Commissioner Eberlin. Joining me, this is Liz Booton. She is our newest appointee to the Advisory Commission for the Historic Preservation Commission. We are here because we are about to take up some of your time over the next probably 2 months regarding the approvals for the Justice Building Photo Project. So just to remind you, we already have $5,000 in our current year fiscal budget for the project. We also have a $2,500 grant that is from the Idaho Historical Society. That is a state-funded grant. We need to complete the project by May 1st. I do have a few handouts here for you if you would like them.
Thank you.
This is the exhibit organization chart here in front of you. I just kind of want to walk through and propose a process for your involvement and approval. This is somewhat unusual because it is a decorative project. We do have to have the invoices completed by May 1st, so what we're asking is for you to review not only the themes and the content, but to have an understanding of the spaces that will be decorated in the Justice Building and the Annex Building. So we are looking at decorating the Annex Building, which is the first floor. That would be from courtroom 10 over to courtroom 6, which is the bailiff station. We're also decorating the second floor in the areas around courtroom 16 and 17 of the Justice Building. The Jacqueline Arts exhibit, which is a rotating art exhibit, will take up courtroom 15 area. So we have proposed this as a kind of means for you to look at materials and the content itself. So we have, over the last probably 5 to 6 months, been collecting and selecting photographs as well as historical documents that reflect Kootenai County as a whole. We have uploaded those. I just worked with Grant this morning. It's all uploaded into a folder for you to review, along with a copy of this chart and some photographs of proposed materials. The proposed materials include using vinyl wall covering, which sticks flush to the wall, much like wallpaper does. That includes the photographs and text. We're also considering using a aluminum composite, as well as a board called Sintra board. Those are all durable and can be used in permanent exhibits. The themes, just to walk you through how this chart works so it is not confusing. We have identified each of the walls, and there's a photograph of the wall in your drive. So you should be able to look at this chart, find the photograph with the same title so you know the wall we're talking about, and then the content is described. We have looked at making sure that we have highlighted each part of the county. So the entry wall covers basic history of lumber, mining, steamboats, firefighting, forestry, railroads, and farming. The other walls we have designated by municipality. This was a great idea that Liz had to title this our Pillars of Justice. Each one of the areas and municipalities of the county contributes in some fashion. So we have divided that into sections. The exterior alcove will cover recreation. We have 2 walls. One covers Farragut State Park and the Bayview area. The other wall is a reflection of the employees who have worked at the county, as well as clerks, justices of the peace, elections, and some of our community groups. The second floor, we would like to highlight the outside of courtroom 16. That will be an America 250 and century celebration of the old courthouse. So it will reflect the design and history of the courthouse, the old courthouse building itself. We have found some very good content to display. It will also, around courtroom 16 and 17, tell the story of the county establishment from 1890 to 1910, describing how Rathdrum was the original county seat, and then it was moved to the Coeur d'Alene area. We have a couple other proposals I would like to bring to your attention. We would like to tell potentially the story of not the Coeur d'Alene tribe, but the Coeur d'Alene reservation county and boundaries. So we have some proposals in there for you to look at regarding how the reservation boundaries were formed and some of the litigation surrounding that. That's primarily the substance for you to review. Over the next 2 months, we will be working with one of 2 contractors. We met with one, Allegra Printing. They have offered to do the project pretty much within budget, depending on material cost. We're meeting with the second contractor called CW Wraps. We will meet with them and discuss their ability to perform the project within budget as well. What we ask, I think specifically just over the next week, is if you would look at the content that we've provided you, the photographs, the documents, and provide any feedback on things that you would find either inappropriate or things that you'd like to see highlighted that maybe we've missed. Having your feedback on that will help us start that design process. It'd be expensive to go into design and then have to change either the content or the photographs. It's a lot of work to collect, scan, and ensure that the quality of the photographs is appropriate for the design itself. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh, you're doing really good.
Okay. Any comments or questions about moving forward?
Thank you. No? No?
Well, great. Enjoy looking at pictures. They have really, I think, been reflective of the county in a. Also, one other item, when you have completed your review and we've put together the design, Judge McHugh, as the administrative judge for the county, would like to also have a review of the project. It's our money, your money, county building, however you'd like us to go about that, we'll certainly take direction.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time in presenting this to us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we'll check in with Sarah next week to see your results.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All righty. Next up is an executive session, so I'm going to go ahead and call for public comment. Come on down.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Hartman. Just a little bit of input to items 2 and items 3, which included a lot of money. I did appreciate that IT offered 2 options. I don't think there was enough information provided to fully understand as Commissioner Matari was asking questions. With your questions you asked, it looks like there's an option C that could be somewhat less money than option B. As far as number 3, the 9/11 concept, that wasn't organized at all. Didn't include total cost. It needs at least an option B and option C, one where you don't have to move the tower and what's the cost to do that. There wasn't near enough provided there for me to make a decision. I don't know about you two, but that needs a lot more work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing nothing. All right. Next up is executive session. I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061D. Got a second? All right.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye. 11:13, I'll make a motion for us to exit executive session, 1D, with staff to proceed as discussed.
Second.
Commissioner Eberline?
Aye.
Chair Matari?
Aye. 11:13, meeting adjourned. Thank you.